Bum, 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 bum. Abo bamaton. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Kuf Chav Beis. We are towards the end of the sugya of whether one is allowed to kill snakes or scorpions on Shabbos or not, different circumstances. We quoted a story that Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana shared about that which happened in the Beis HaMedrash of Rabbeinu HaKadosh. And because of that, we're going to learn three other statements quoted by the same Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana. On Daf Kuf Chav Beis, we're going to start with the Mishnah that's going to focus about what is one allowed to derive benefit from, or when is one allowed to derive benefit from a malacha that a goy did for him, and when is one not allowed to derive benefit from a malacha that a goy did for him or for her on Shabbos. In other words, we're not going to be focusing in our Mishnah about what you can tell a goy to do or not, but independent of you telling him anything, whether you can derive benefit from a malacha that a goy did for you on Shabbos. Even though we did learn a case on Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph yesterday, that if the goy on his own is putting out the fire, you don't need to tell him, don't do it, because he's really doing it for his own benefit. We're going to learn, as Tosfos is going to speak out, that there are different scenarios. There's a goy putting out a fire for you, versus a goy doing something actively, like lighting a candle for you. That might be different. And all sorts of criterions of when do we know that the goy is doing it only for himself, and when do we say that the goy is doing it for you? What activity does the goy have to add more exertion, more effort in order for there to be more of it for you? Or when is it that whatever the goy does, lighting a candle, when he lights a candle for him, he makes no extra effort if someone else, if a yid is going to be deriving benefit, and all of this, how it plays out halacha l'maisa. We're going to start a new Perek, the 17th chapter, Kol HaKelim. It's a very exciting Perek. I know that most of us learn properly Siman, Shin, Ches, right, in Shulchan Aruch, Muktzah. Not everyone in the yeshiva reaches all the way to Kuf Chav Beis to learn the source of all of the Hilchas Muktzah, even though we did mention a lot about Hilchas Muktzah earlier on in the Masechta, but this is really the Perek of Muktzah. Just to share a few very brief introductions regarding Muktzah. Number one, the Isur of Muktzah is one is not allowed to eat, drink, or move Muktzah. One is allowed to derive benefit from Muktzah, as we'll see. When it comes to Kalim that were made for a purpose, so we're going to have, at least today, two general categories of a Keli Shemalachta in Isur, which means that this Keli was made for it to primarily be used for something that may not be done on Shabbos. That's called a Keli Shemalachta Isur. And then you have a Keli Shemalachta Laheter, which means a utensil that whose function is primarily to do something that one is allowed to do on Shabbos. Now, when you do have a Keli defined already as Muktzah, which means you can't move it, so just to define, why would someone be moving it? So there's a concept called moving it, l'tzoyrech gufay. L'tzoyrech gufay means you're moving it to use it. And then there is moving something, l'tzoyrech mekaymai. You're not moving it because you want to use it, but because you need the place that this keli is on for another permissible activity. So you have to move away that which is muktzah, tzorech gufay, tzorech mekaymai. We'll see how all this plays out and many, many more details. Let's start. We left off on Daf Kuf Chav Aleph Amid Beis. Baruch Hashem, we got at least towards the end of the bottom of the Amid. Abba Bar Marta. Continues the Gemara. Abba Bar Marta, which is Abba Bar Manyume, have a maski bay, devei reish galusa zuzay. He owed money to the house of the reish galusa, and whether what they did is right or wrong, but I see you who come at startley. They brought him over, and they were anguishing him. According to some, they put him in jail because he owed them money. And while he was there during Shabbos, what he noticed was that there was some spittle laying around in that area. And Amar Lahu Reish Galusa, so the Reish Galusa, who was bothered with that dirt, he told his workers, Aisumana and Sechifu Ilave, bring a keli and turn it over the area of the spittle on the correct presumption that the spittle itself is muktzah. And as we learned in the Mishnah, in our Mishnah, Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph, that we are not saying that you cannot move a keli for muktzah. You could move a keli for muktzah. He felt that you can't remove it, which you can, so invert a keli over it. So when Abba Bar Marta, who so to say incarcerated in that in the household of the Reish Galusa, when he witnessed that, so Amar Lahu, so he intervened and he told the Chevra, guys, you're not learning. There's no need to cover a keli. Hachi Amar Rabbi Yehuda, as we just learned, that roik dorsoi lefi tumai, just like we learned regarding the snakes and the scorpions, and we learned that Rashi right 3 lines before the bottom of the Amid, that if you're walking without intent of killing a snake and a scorpion, and you see that it seems that where your foot is about to go down, there is a dangerous creature there. You don't have to move your foot away. You can walk lefitumai. You walk innocently, because Rashi says, right, 3 lines on the bottom, it's a davar she'ein mischaven. Obviously, we're not considering this a psik reisha. Could be the snake or the scorpion will go out of the way. Same, we also learned this regarding spittle. Yes, for you to rub spittle into the ground, that could touch upon the malacha of binyan if it is in an indoor area. However, when you step on spittle, you might not properly rub it into the ground. That might not happen. And since it's a davar she'ein mischaven, we learned that it's completely permissible. Guys, we are following the shita of Reb Shimon, or even if you're going to follow the shita of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds the davar she'ein mischaven as asan midrabanan, but when it comes to danger, and here when it comes to something repulsive, that's what we learned, they'll be more lenient. So you don't have to invert a keli over it. We'll push it. You walk around here without the kavana of putting it into the ground, and if it gets, and this is a way that you might get rid of it. So when they heard him making that statement, right, Amar Lahu, so the Reish Galusa tells him, if that's the case, Shivku, let him go. They gave him preferential treatment because of his Torah knowledge. Now, is that correct? Was it correct for them to put him into jail because he owed money? Could be that was the rule. Were they allowed to be machabed him because he was a tzurba midrabanan? Could be they trusted him that he's going to pay later. But this is just to back up this whole concept of lefi tumai is another heter of one coming back to our sugya, killing snakes or scorpions. Now, being that it was this Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana that quoted the story that we were once in a base Midrash on Shabbos and a snake fell into the yeshiva. So because of that, we're going to quote 3 other statements that he made that are not related to the sugya of killing snakes and scorpions. Let's begin. Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana Amar Rab Chanina, that mutois shall base Rabbi muter letaltalan b'Shabbos. If you remember on Daf Mem Hey, on Daf Mem Vav, we were learning about whether a heavy utensil, a utensil that when you put it down before Shabbos, normally you were not planning to take it away. The wordings there was Adam koiveya loy makom. Means if I put something down and I plan to leave it there, perhaps it becomes muktzah because it wasn't muchan to be used on Shabbos. Now a candelabra, which is what we're talking about, has other issues with it, which is that if there was a nail lid on it from Bein Hashmashis, that means that it was a basis l'davar ha'asur, then it becomes muktzah for the whole Shabbos. Another thing was that if you have a candelabra that's made out of many pieces, if you remember that sugya, and it's meant to be taken apart, to be put together, then there is another isur of you moving it because you might reassemble it on Shabbos, and the issue of reassembling goes into either if you hold yesh binyan bekalim, there's an issue with binyan, and even if you don't subscribe at all to binyan bekalim, there is an issue of MERCAVA patish that you may not do. But the candelabras in the house of Rabbi, they were not made out of chuliyos. They were not made out of shtikalach. They were made out of one piece. So when, again, they were not muktzah because they were not used Friday night, there was no neiros on them, being that there's no chashash that you will reassemble them, so he stated that you can move them, they're not muktzah. Amalei Rab Zeda, to further clarify, are you speaking about dafke candelabras that are light? Is it binitalam b'yadei achas, or even candelabras that b'shtei yodayim, that are very heavy? And again, this is something that we learned about Memhei, Memvav, very heavy, means that probably when you put it down before Shabbos, you weren't planning to move it. And that also goes into a muktzah aspect. So what were those candelabras of Rebbe? Daf Kuf Chav Beis. So Amalai, Ba'oisan, Ke'oisan Shal Beis Avicha. No. Like yours, meaning they were small. In other words, if Taka, they were heavy, right? Rashi reminds us the words on top of the Amid, that since Adam Koivei Allahem Makaim, that in itself renders them muktzah. Gewaldige concepts. You put something down, and you plan to leave it there for the whole Shabbos, you can't move it on Shabbos, but that was not the case with the candelabras of the house of Rebbe. That was statement number 1. And what was the chiddush? The chiddush is that anything that's not made out of chuliyos, even though it's a keli that was meant to use with fire, and if it would have been used out of Shabbos, when Shabbos comes in, it would have remained muktzah for the whole Shabbos. But if it wasn't moved, if it wasn't used, that's going to lead us into the whole keli, shemalach de le'iser. We're going to get into that mamash today. In the beginning of the next Perek, he held that you are allowed to move it on Shabbos. Next, Amar Rav Abba Bar Kahana, Amar Rav Chanina, another din, Koren shall beis Rabbi. The wagons that were used in the household of Rebbe, muter letaltalan b'Shabbos. A wagon is considered a keli, right? Well, obviously, we're not speaking about huge wagons, but something that's considered a keli is by default not muktzah. And here again, Amalei Rab Zeda, how small were those wagons? Was it binitalan ba'adam echad? Is it a wagon that could be moved by one person? Or even a wagon that is so large that you need to have 2 people? Maybe a wagon is not like a candelabra. They understand the candelabra, there's no wheels on it. If it's taka very heavy, you put it down. Adam kaveh lahem makim. When it comes to a wagon is something that's meant to be moved. And maybe even if you need to have two people to roll it, maybe that's the new question over here. It doesn't become muksa because Adam kaveh lahem makim, to which he answered, Amalai, again, no, that the wagons that he was referring to was only ka'isen shel beis avicha. And here there's really a machloikas how to learn pshat. Either no, they're small, or the opposite, no. That even when they're large, people are not kivei amakim for a wagon, even if they're heavy, because that's a pshat, a wagon. It's on wheels, it's meant to be pushed around. And the third statement, V'amar Rav Abba bar Kahana, hitir lehem Rabbi Chanina lebeis Rabbi, lishtois yayin b'kiroina shel nachri b'choisem echad. In Mesechtas Avodah Zarah, when we learned the sugya of yayin, and even if we don't know that the guy stoked it, steered it, or poured it la'avodah zarah, it's stam yayin midrabanan, it's also asr. And therefore, when you transport wine, right? So the Chachamim hold you have to put the wine in a keli that's doubly sealed. Chaysam b'toy chaysam. However you define the chaysam in halach. There's only the Tanach Rabbi Eliezer that's lenient, and he holds no, as long as there is one seal, which makes it difficult for the guy to open up and to pour, we can rely on one chaysim, and we can say the wine did not become yayin stam. Now, he paskined that if wine is being brought to the household of Rabbi, even if it's only b'chaysim echad, and the guy is the one that moved it, you can drink it. So he paskined. However, v'lo yodana, we don't understand based on what did they give that psak din. And there are two options. Number one is, im yishum d'sover like Rabbi Eliezer, based on that, and Rabbi Eliezer B'chlal holds that the chosim echad suffices to make sure that the yain does not become yain stam, or maybe there's something unique in wine that belongs dafka lebeis Rebbe. In other words, Rebbe is the Chlonasi. Don't forget the institution of Nesius in Eretz Yisrael was backed up by the Romans. So there was a certain koyach, even a lahavdal, a goyish koyach given to the Beis Rebbe. So maybe a goy, number one, it belongs to the household of Rebbe, what he's going to steal from the household of the Nasi, and one chaysam, both of these things together, that is what makes sure that it doesn't become yayin stam. But if it would be wine not belonging to the household of Rebbe, there wouldn't be the ema of stealing from the big Nasi, then maybe he wouldn't have paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. Maybe we would say that one chaysim is not enough. Halacha l'maisa, if you remember when we learned in Avodah Zarah, we talk a paskin that one chaysim is not enough. We have to have a double chaysim. Just to know that our wine bottles, all of our wine bottles by default have a double chaysim, because the cork is considered one chaysim, and that metal covering, I know it looks black, but it's made out of tin foil or whatever that is, that's considered the second chaysim, a lechumra, and without that, taka, yayin mevushel would become yayin stam if it doesn't have two chaysims. Okay, coming back to Hilchos Shabbos. Now, yeah, quickly recapping, we did learn Mamash Daf before Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph that if there's a fire burning in the house of a Yid, even though we are not allowed to tell a goy kabei, but if a goy is coming on his or her own to put it out, we're not obligated to stop them. And as the Gemara explained, that when they're putting out the fire, they know that it will be appreciated. They know that the Yid is going to compensate them. They're going to benefit from doing it. So since they're doing it for their own benefit, we don't have to tell them, don't put it out. Let them put it out. Remember this when we learn this Mishnah. This Mishnah doesn't seem to be agreeing with that at all, and that's a big problem, and we'll learn the places that will reconcile, and that's going to be a big yisoid in the sugya of Amida La'akum. Also quickly reviewing that there's two issues with Amida La'akum Lashita Rashi. That all helps us. There's an issue of telling a guy what to do Amalachim, and Rashi and Avodah Zarah writes that that's included in the Isur, B'divrei Kabbalah, Pasuk in Yeshayahu, V'daber Davar. And then you have Rashi Shabbos Kuf Nun Gimel that says that Amida La'akum is connected to Shlichus. And these are two very different topics. Our Mishnah is connected more to the Shlichus aspect. Shlichus aspect means that just like Lamashal, Zakayin La'adam Shaloi B'fanav, if I pick up something that's hefkid for you, even though you never told me to do it, if it's only for your benefit, if it's a schus for you, I'm automatically your shliach. Whether you ask me or not, whether you know about it or not, I become your extension, and you taka own it. L'chumra nidrabanan, we say that there's shlichus la'akum b'negeya, a violation of Shabbos, which would mean that if a guy does something for my benefit, even though I didn't tell him, forget about I didn't tell him explicitly, I was not even meramis to him. Zero. If he did it for me, then it's prohibited for me to derive benefit from it, because it's almost like I did it. Now, I didn't tell him to do it. You can't punish me if I'm not going to derive benefit, but I taka cannot derive benefit. Says the Mishnah, Nachri, the Mishnah gives three cases. Nachri shehidlik es haneir. If a guy lit a candle, like here's the key at the shot in the Mishnah, if the guy lit it for the guy for himself, now that he lit it for himself, so mishtamish la'oida Yisrael, a yid can use the light. Because not the yid told him to do it, nor did he do it for the yid. The fact that a light was lit on Shabbos, that in itself is not a problem. There's no fakert, a guy Shabbos chayiv misa. A guy doesn't have to keep Shabbos. The guy lit it for himself. Now that it's there, a yid can derive benefit. But the im b'shvil Yisrael, but if he did it for the yid, then a yid may not use it. And right away, here's the kasha. What did we learn yesterday? If the guy puts out the fire in the Jewish home, the yid doesn't have to tell him to stop. The yid benefits from it. He did it, the Jewish home was burning. So why do we say that if a guy lit a candle for a yid, the yid is asur? Why don't we say like that Tanya Perek Aleph? He did it really for himself. He lit it for the yid because he's going to get some reward for that. Right? That's the big question. So look inside Tosfos, right? The third Tosfos in the Amid. And Tosfos says, I'm going towards the middle, or towards the second half of the Tosfos. You can't tell him explicitly to put it out, but on the other hand, you're not obligated to tell him al tachabe. And over here says Tosfos, asks Tosfos, asur kisha oisa b'shvil Yisrael. Let's remember this Tosfos. Answers Tosfos, the chi amrinan the nachri adata the nafshik avid hanamili bikibui. The case in Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph was he put out a fire. And so what says Tosfos? She'ein Yisrael mehena b'maisa hanachri. The guy did something. He did something negative. Negative means he put out the fire. He didn't allow the fire to burn. That's one level. And there we are lenient. There we say, since everything he did, he really did because he knows he's going to somehow benefit back. The Jew is going to appreciate it and give him something for it. Doesn't matter whether he's going to pay him now or do him a favor tomorrow. So then you can derive benefit. But over here says Tosfos, Avol Hache, Sheguf Yisrael Mehena B'maisa Shel Nachri. Here he lit a candle. There is something here now that the Yid wants to benefit from. Here it's different. Here we're more machmer. You have the difference. No, it's removing a fire. He removed it. What are you benefiting from? Did the guy put something here that you're benefiting? No. It's a negative thing. He took away a mazik. We're more lenient there. We always say that a guy does it for himself and you can derive benefit. Guys, this is so halacha l'mais. In other words, there's a difference between a guy putting on the light bulb or taking off the light bulb. Shutting the light or off, big difference. When he shuts the light, he didn't create the darkness. What he took away that which is disturbing your sleep. We're a lot more lenient. Him putting on the light bulb, I'm not talking about in the Beis HaMedrash or the Beis HaKnesses. It's much more problematic, right? Like we said, the story of the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek story was the Rebbe wanted him to light the fire for him. That's something else. If he lit it for him, it's the moment he lit it for you, even though you're going to compensate him somehow, it's not good enough. Gavaldik. That's a Gavaldik and Afkamina, and he quotes Kach Perish Rabbeinu Shimshon Hazaken. Guys, this concept is brought down in Halach. Okay, coming back into the Mishnah. It's good to remember this difference. So that's case number one. Case number two. Milei mayim lahashkis behemtoi. Drawing water, as we spoke out so many times, because half of the Masechta, more than that, was about Hoitzah. A well, if the well is 10 tvachim deep and it's 4 by 4, so inside of the well is a bona fide reshus hayachid. when you take water out of the well, we're speaking about a well that's in the Reshus HaRabim, you're doing an act of Haitzah, the Reshus HaYachid, the Reshus HaRabim. If a guy drew water for the guy's animal and there was leftover water, here's already a bigger chiddush, because here, right, the Gemara is going to speak it out. We'll speak it out in the Gemara. Even though there's leftover water, as long as the guy did it for the guy, then Mashka Achrav Yisrael, a Yid can derive benefit from that. But if the Im Bishvil Yisrael, again, he didn't put something out. There was something here that the guy did on Shabbos, which is in violation of an Ab. If he did it for the Yid, then Asr. And just to know what's that Asr, the concept of B'chtei Sheyasu, B'chtei Sheyechamu, if we consider this Amir La'akum, then it's not only Asr on Shabbos, but let's say it would take to draw water from the well 5 minutes. Then after Shabbos, you have to wait another 5 minutes, and only then can you derive benefit. Third case in the Mishnah, Kevesh lated boy. I'm sorry, Asr Nachri Kevesh lated boy. If you have a Yid and a Goy are on a ship together. Now there are issues of Tchumen, which means that if the ship only docked on Shabbos, if when Ben Hashmashis came in, the ship was more than 2,000 amas away from the city, then a Yid is not allowed to get off the ship. But if the ship was already within the 2,000 amas by Ben Hashmashis, even though it didn't dock yet, that a Yid can get off the ship on Shabbos. But here's an issue. In those days, not every ship had already a plank that was ready, that when you docked, you just put out the plank and you walked off the ship. Many times they would need to build it. So if the guy built it for himself, so then even though that you're going to derive benefit from it, it doesn't matter. You're the Achrav Yisrael. But the Ibishul Yisrael, if he did it for the Yid, then it's Asr. And Maisa Rabbi Gamliel, Usakadim, that indeed Shehoya Boyim Besfina, and V'Asra Nachri Kevesh, later boy, and the Yardo by Rabbi Gamliel Usakadim, because they understood that that's a case where the guy did it for himself, and then yes, you can derive benefit. The Mishnah gave 3 cases: Neir, right? Getting water from a well and building a plank to get off the boat. Says the Gemara right away, Vitzricha. The Ashmi'in, and only the first case of a Neir, I would argue, Mishum, the Neir le'echad Neir le'meya, as long as the guy is lighting the lamp for himself, he doesn't make more effort at all for there to be more light for someone else. It's the same light. In other words, nothing extra did he do for the Yid. So then, and he did it for himself, the Yid can use it. But if the Mishnah wouldn't have said the case of the drawing of the water, you would have thought Abel Mayim Ligzar Dilma Asila Fusha Bishvil Yisrael. Even in the case where you know that he didn't do it for the Yid, he did it for himself. But here there's a greater danger. The danger is that Hitaka did it primarily for himself, but maybe he drew some extra water. He has a chaver, a Yid, and if that would have happened, it would have been Asr. So let's make a gezerah that it's always Asr. So that's the chiddush, that as long as he did it for the guy, a Yid can derive benefit. Now, what about the kevish? The kevish l'chayt is like a ned, right? Because it's the same plank. Ned l'echad, ned l'meya. So the kevish lamali, and the Gemara says, indeed, there's no halachic nuance that is being added by the case of the kevish, other than the Mishnah wants to give a maisa. That's the way Rabbeinu HaKadosh said, this is the halacha. So the story happened with the ram, so he brought that story. Why did he bring it? All right, so now let's unpackage this. If a guy gathered grass, gathering grass, my friends, is first of all, that's an act of koitzer, right? That's an av. And not only that, but something that was cut off the ground on Shabbos is also muktzah. Why is it muktzah? Because it wasn't muchan from before Shabbos. So Michael Achrav Yisrael, a Yid can, if he cut the grass for his own animal and there's leftover grass, a Yid can allow the Yid's animal to eat from it. Again, this is very important, Nakuda. Guys, even when something is muktzah, muktzah means I cannot eat, I cannot drink, I cannot move. That's what muktzah is. Muktzah never means I cannot have hana'ah. My animals eating muktzah means I'm having hana'ah. Good to remember that. Like for you're going, there's a big rock you can sit on it on Shabbos. Either rakas muktzah, you're not moving it, you're not eating it, you're not drinking it. So the kids of the Yid can use it. However, V'mishul Yisrael, same concept. If the guy was malakid asarum for the Yid, then it's asur, included in the Isur of Amira La'akum, even though the Yid didn't tell him. Milei Mayim La'ashkis Behemtoi, Mamish, the case of the Mishnah, then Nachamol, then Mashka Achrav Yisrael, but Ve'im Bishvil Yisrael, if he did it for the Yid, then it's asur. Now the Braisa adds a detail that we did not have in the Mishnah. Since the guy doesn't know the Yid, so even though there is leftover grass, leftover water, then we say he didn't do it for the Yid. But if he knows him, then you can derive benefit. Why not? Like we just learned before in the Gemara. Because if he does extra for the Yid, then the Yid cannot derive benefit. So how are we to know whether he did extra or not? That's something that we didn't learn until now. This is common sense. If the guy knows the Yid, then it's likely he did some extra for the Yid, and therefore it's us. This is a secondary question. This is not that Mamad Adam behemtoi al gaba asavim b'Shabbos v'loy al gaba muktzah b'Shabbos. Listen to this. Guys, even though we learned before, there's an isur of shvisas behemtoi. We spoke it out when we learned this above. That my animal cannot carry, but eating is different. My animal is allowed to eat on Shabbos. Now, can I stand next to my animal when it's eating grass that's connected to the ground? Yes. Why would you think not? Because maybe you should be afraid that for me to help my animal, I might myself uproot the grass. Being that I know that uprooting grass is a Isur D'Oraisa, there isn't such a I'll never make that mistake. So I can stand right by my animal when it's feeding off connected grass. But what happens if you have grass that's muktzah? L'mashal, why is it muktzah? Because before Shabbos it was connected to the ground. In this case, a guy cut it for the guy. No amira la'akum issue, but that grass is like noilad. It wasn't an entity before Shabbos came in. So it's muktzah. Being that people are not so careful by muktzah, Chazal made a takana, you're not allowed to stand there when your animal is eating grass because you might lift it up and feed it to your animal. It's amazing. If the issue would have been greater, then there's no need to make exera. Whenever the potential violation is lesser, which means people might violate, then they made exera. So Bachlal, let's understand this whole case over here. You understand? The Bryce is speaking about the guy cut it, and the Yid, if the guy cut it for the guy, then I can allow my animals to eat it. Bachlal, there's another problem. I cannot be there when my animal is eating muktzah. So the Gemara says that's not a problem. The case of the Bryce is you are not on the side of your animal. You're not in a position where if you forget muktzah, you might feed the grass itself. The case of the Bryce was the kohen leba'apa. You're standing in front of your animal. You're ahead of your animal. And the only issue there, it's not shaykh for you to pick it up and give it to him. Question is whether it's allowed. Why would it not be allowed? Amir la'akum. So that's where the Baraisa says that if the Yid and the Goyim don't know each other and the Goy did it for himself, then the Yid can derive benefit. Okay, now let's come back to this topic itself. So Omar Mar, the Baraisa added this nuance that if the Goy did it for the Goy, later the Yid can derive benefit. And it's not Neir. Again, Neir means there was nothing extra that he did. Neir la'echad, Neir la'meya. We're speaking about a guy that took water out of a well, a guy that cut grass. If there's something left over, that means there was extra. There was extra. Still, you are allowed to derive benefit, but because then we argue, Mistama, he did the extra for him. It means if he did it for the Yid and for the guy, if he did it for both, even though he also did it for himself, it's asur. The Gemara is asking a common sense question. The Mishnah gave a story that Rabbi Gamliel and the Zakanim, they arrived Shabbos. They arrived Shabbos. Again, in the case, there's no tchumen issue, and they used the plank that the guy built for the guy. It's only logical that when you spend time on the ship together with other shipmates, you get to know each other. Don't think that the ship's den, it wasn't the QE2. The ship then was 4 times the size of a rowboat, Nebuch, and you fabring 2 weeks with whoever was there. So you got to know each other. So it only makes sense that when the guy built the plane, by then he already knew Rabbi Gamliel. So now we got a problem. Gavaldik. Rabbi Gamliel, Makiroi have. Again, the Gemara's premise, Makiroi, was simply because they wanted to go together for a certain amount of time, and yet Rabbi Gamliel got off the plank. Is the Charai from over here? Then you go on a trip. Say hello to the neighbor next to you, just to be a mensch. Amar Abaye, another nuance. So we have Abaye and Rava. Oh, this is such a good sugya. And two different approaches. Abaye answers that since the case of the Mishnah was shaloi b'fanav hava, in other words, when the guy built the kevesh, Rabbi Gamliel was not there. So he says we presume that if he wasn't there, he didn't have him in mind. So even by makiroi, shaloi b'fanav, he didn't have him in mind. Rava says no. Afilo tema b'fanav. Don't compare the case of the plank and the case of the braisa. In the case of the braisa, where you are gathering water or you're harvesting hay or grass, there you did more work. There's extra grass, there's extra water. A plank is like a candle. In other words, even though, according to Rava, he also had in mind Rabbi Gamliel, that's what it comes out, but he did not do extra effort for Rabbi Gamliel. Because even if Rabbi Gamliel would not have been there, he would have had to build the same plank. The same plank that he uses is being used by Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Amar afilo te'im b'fanav neir le'echad neir l'meya. In other words, according to Abaye, even if you did not do extra effort, according to Abaye's machmer, if you had in mind the yid also, not only also, it's a problem. It's a problem. And the only reason why Rabbi Gamliel was allowed to go off, use that plank is because he built the plank when Rabbi Gamliel was not there. So then he only had himself in mind. They were makirim, they were acquaintances, so what? But he had himself in mind. He was shalei b'fanav. According to Rava, I don't care if the guy also does it for the yid. The only thing we have to know is, did he work extra for the yid? By the case of the plank, he didn't work extra. So therefore, Rabbi Gamliel was allowed to use it. Now we're going to go reflecting about a meisvei. The first kasha will be on Rava. Omar Lahem Rabbi Gamliel. We have another braisa that adds to the story that the Mishnah brought. And Rabbi Gamliel says, since the guy did not build this kevesh in front of us, that's why we can go down. Clearly not like Rava. So it says the Gemara, the Braisa is authentic. Rabbi Gamliel said those words, which was also emes, that the guy did not build a kevesh right in front of Rabbi Gamliel, but there was another statement that Rabbi Gamliel made, and the second statement is the ikit. Since he already made it, therefore we can use it. Already made it, meaning that he did not do anything extra. He did whatever he needed to do for himself. Now, he can make both statements, but what the Rabbi will say is that, so what that he made these two statements? It happened to be that he made it shaloi b'fanav. But the halachic argument was not from the first statement, it's from the second statement. Okay, but that's what the Rabbi says, he's not refuted from the Brais. Tashema, now we're going to bring a Mishnah from Achshidin that's going to be a challenge on both. What do we learn in Achshidin? You have a city that both are habitated by Yidden and Goyim, and there's a bath that's being used on Shabbos. Now, my friends, let's not forget, regardless of the issue of Amir La'akum, there's already a Ta'isur D'Rabbanan, one may never go into a hot bath on Shabbos. So we're not speaking about entering the bath on Shabbos. The question is, can a Yid go into this bathhouse Matzah Shabbos? Another detail is, if, let's say, to warm up the bath, it takes 30 minutes or it takes 2 hours, that a Yid can go in there 2 hours after Shabbos, of course he could. Question is, can a Yid go into this bathhouse right Matzah Shabbos within the time of, generally we say the words B'chtei Sheyasu, here it's B'chtei Sheyechamu. So that's the question. So it says the Mishnah, Im Roiv Nachrim, if the majority of the people are going with Roiv, so then Mutar Lichatz V'miyad, then we say it's done for the Roiv. Im Roiv Yisrael, so it was done for the Roiv. Now, they warmed it up on Shabbos because Goyim went in there on Shabbos. Doesn't matter. Because even though they warmed it up, knowing that now only Goyim will go, if Roiv people that end up using it during the week are Yidden, so then Yamtin b'chtei sheyichamu, b'chtei sheyasu, afterwards. So what's the problem over here? Problem is that when it comes to a bath, that's the mitzias. Neir le'echad neir le'meya. Neir le'echad neir le'meya. So kashanova. No, they needed to do the same avoida even for the minority, for the goyim to use it. So who cares if you didn't benefit from it? Even if Roiv are Yisrael. According to Abaye, it's all about the fun of when they warmed it up, Yidden were not there. Yidden don't go to bathhouses. So not it was b'fanav, not that there was extra avoida rava. So it should always be mutter, kashan both. Answers the Gemara, no. When we gave the Mishnah of the plank, there were two people, the Goy and Abba Gamliel, or the case of the Neir. Here, the people that are doing the avoider, they're not doing it for themselves at all. They're doing it for others. Who are they doing it for? So the rule is that Hassan, when you have a business and you're doing something, you're doing it for the majority of your potential clients. Since they, in the case of Rav Yisrael, we say that it was done be'ikr for the Yidden, what do you mean they didn't do extra work? The whole thing was done for the Yidden. You get it? In other words, if the guy did it for himself, so then we say it's not enough. If it's makiroi, if he did something extra, that's where you have a Abaye and Rabbi. If it was done lechatchila for both, if it was done lechatchila for the Yidden, that bein Abaye, bein Rabbi, I don't care that it should be fun of, I don't care that it wasn't extra. The ikr was done for the Yidden. Look inside Rashi, 6 lines from the bottom. It's always going to be awesome. When is it? When do we have a Abaye and Rabbi? There's only two people, right? There we say the Nachri adata the Nafshi Yuda Avid, then Shari La Abaye only when it's Shalei B'Fanov, and L'Rav Afilo B'Fanov as long as they made no extra exertion, end of Rashi. But if we know that it was Lachatchila done for the Yidden, then it's always going to be awesome. Okay. Now we're going to go into another case. Tashema, unlike a bath, case of a Neir, similar question. But lighting a candle is even less work than boiling up a bath. And maybe by a candle, you can argue, since the guy who's lighting it also benefits, it might be again considered for the goy. But it says in a Braisa, Neir had dolog b'mesiba. If you have a party, and a candle was lit there. So if imroiv nachrim, if the Merayv people that are in this mesiba are goyim, mutar l'shtamish loira. Speaking about on Shabbos, if Rav Yisrael are there, then asur. Not only that, mechza is also asur. Now again, the havamin of the Gemara is that a neir l'chu'ura is even less problematic than a bathhouse, because there even you can. Why don't we say that the goy neir echad neir lameya? I know the same thing is by a merchatz, but still by a merchatz there's a big avoida and you're doing it for your clients. Man, you lit a candle. Why don't we say the goy lit it for himself? And again, this whole issue, now this you can argue that according to Abaye, it's not a kasha. You can say the kasha is not an Abaye because it was b'fanav. Yidden were there. Yidden were there, according to Abaye, he did it for both. But according to Rabbi, that it's about extra exertion, there's b'chlal no extra exertion when it comes to a neir. So here the Gemara gives the same answer. Hasam nami, turning to Amid, that ki madlikeim. The word is that I don't care if it's a candle. I don't care that the guy who lit it himself will benefit from it. If Roiv Yidden are there, it's done for the Roiv. Adapta the Ruba Madlike. And the moment that it's done for the Roiv, it's going to be usher to derive benefit. Going back to the Tosfos, again, if the guy did something to take away a damage for a Yid, then we say, he really also did it for himself. Fine. But if he's doing something positive and there's something here now that the guy did, a Yid may not derive benefit if it was done for a Yid. And that Rashi on the top of the Amma just adds, not only if Roiv, then we know for sure he did it for the Roiv, but even where it's Mechzal Machzam, the reason why the Braisa says it's Aser is because it's 50% he did it for the Yidden, 50% for the Goyim. We don't know. So because of that doubt, we have to be Machmer. But if it's only one Yid and one Goy, not a whole Mesiva, two people, then we say, even though it's 50-50, we don't say it that way. We say the guy lit it for himself because he needed it for him. By the Mesiba, he lit it primarily for the party. Very good. It says the Gemara Shmuel Ikra Lebei Oven Shmuel went to the house of Oven that was in the city of Toirim. Also, Nachri and a guy came in there and Adlik Shirog and a little lamp. The moment that happened, Shmuel right away, Adrino Shmuel Ape, Shmuel turned his face around, not wanting to benefit from that lamp because this Bay Oven, Yiddish home, Roiv people there for sure were Yidden. However, Kiven, the Chaza, the Isis Shtarvikokari, but the moment Shmuel noticed that the guy himself took out a document and he read it by the candlelight, Omar Shmuel said, Adata Denafshi Yuda Adlik. And therefore, he did turn his face to derive benefit from the candles, from the light, which is very important. That what we are learning, the whole sugya is, we're trying to presume what's in the mind of the guy. So there's a klal that if a guy does something for a group, he had in mind the roiv. If it's exactly 50-50, you have a doubt in your machmer. But that's all when you don't know what he had in mind. If the guy did something that showed everyone what was his intent, and that is, in our case, he went into a Yiddish home, roiv, ruba, the ruba were Yidden there, and he lit a candle there. But right away, he benefited from that candle. Then we say he did it for himself. The moment we say he did it for himself, that's the word in the Mishnah. I don't care that a Yid has benefit. Especially since he did not do any extra effort. He did not do any extra effort, right? That's Shitas Rava, and you're allowed to derive benefit. With this, we say, we will return to you. And now, with tremendous simcha, again, for those of us who learn Shemches, that's going to be a great chazara of learning all of the sources of the laws of Muktzah. Says the Mishnah.
Rabbi, does the guy have to stick around in order to derive benefit to be considered hana?
No. In this case, the guy used it for a moment. That's it. But in other words, when he lit it, he wanted to read a document. And now we say, he didn't do extra effort.
Oh, but if you call him in to light it and then he just leaves, that's not considered hana for the guy.
If I call him to light it, then it's much worse. You have to have a heter for that. It has to be like the hetadim there will be is that it's in a shul, so there's a tzedek mitzvah. Another heter will be is that there is anyways enough light without him. That's a big heter that's used. Notice if you could have done your function without the guy opening the light, so you can always argue he only added light. It's much more problematic if it's pitch dark and you needed that light. It's a big problem. And again, putting out the candle, that's Rabbeinu Shimshon, is going to be mutter. If he puts out the light, even though you asked him to do it, but emes, there's a double. If you ask him, but emes, oh, it's so light in here, I don't know what to do, I can't fall asleep, that's in Takamu, we paskin, it's mutter. Why is it mutter? Because everything a guy does, he does it for himself. He's doing you a favor, he's going to benefit from the fact that he did you a favor, and the bottom line is there's nothing be'en, there's nothing here that you are benefiting from. He did not create darkness. He just took away the candle. Unlike the sugi that we learned today. Okay.
Thank you.
New Mishnah. Beginning with simple. Says the Mishnah. Kol hakelim nitolim b'Shabbos. When you have a keli that can be moved on Shabbos, a keli can be taken on Shabbos. That keli, certain kelim, like carriages, like cabinets, can have doors. Even though, as we'll learn in a moment, a door might not have per se the status of a keli, but any door that's connected to a keli, because of it being part of a larger keli, automatically does have a status of it also being a keli. So therefore, the Dal Soisei Imam, not only can you move the utensil, you can move the door. Now, avade, if the door is connected to the keli, there's no need for the Mishnah to say the din. Chiddush of the Mishnah is apalpish and a sparkle, and here the parentheses is very important. We'll see details of this parentheses, even though, let's read the word b'Shabbos, even though the door was disconnected from the keli on Shabbos, it became detached. Oh, so you can argue that how is it allowed to be moved? And the answer is no. First of all, Bein Hashmashas it was connected. Number two, since it's going to be reattached, it never loses its status of it being part of the larger keli. So it's not muksa, it's a keli and it could be moved. And you should know that a door, not a door when it's attached, if the door becomes detached from a house, that door may not be used. Why is that? Because it was prior to it being detached, it was connected to a house. A house is not a keli. Karka is not a keli. And by the way, you can't move it, but no one moves real estate. Even though you're moving the door, it's not called moving it. So since it never had a status of a keli, and therefore it's not muchan, remember, muchan muktzah. If it's not a keli, then it wasn't designated prior for it to be used. It's not b'chlal a keli. So as long as it is attached, that's okay. But the moment it becomes detached, then it automatically is, and the worst type of keli, it's not a keli. Therefore, you can't move it. A door connected to a keli, a door of a carriage, a door of a box, a door of a cabinet. No, it's considered a keli because of it being attached to the keli. So if it gets detached, it doesn't lose that status. Now, when did it get detached? The emes is no matter when you can move it. But the Gemara is going to go into more details, and that's again the parentheses of the words b'Shabbos. Weiter. Now we're going to open up the topic of if there is a keli that was primarily made for it to be used for something that's permissible to be done on Shabbos, keli shemalachte leheter, that's avada, something that there's no problem to move it. What happens if there's a keli that shemalachte leiser? That might be the case of the Mishnah. We see machlokes in the Gemara. That means a keli that was made, let's say, for building, a hammer. So you can't build on Shabbos. But you can also use that keli to open up a nut. Right? It's a type of keli that it's not it's such an expensive keli that the balabas never allows it to use it for anything other. No. Right? There's no chesar and kiss here. A hammer, he cares. If you can use a hammer to knack a nail in, you can use a hammer to open up a nut. So do we say that a keli shemalachte le'iser is allowed to be used l'tzoyrach gufay on Shabbos? That will be the next lines in the Mishnah. And the Mishnah gives many examples. Now, by almost all of them, it can go both ways. It can be a keli that was made for a heter or a keli made for an iser. But there's one giveaway that Rabbeinu HaKadosh did. He hacked in one thing that is zicher keli shemalachte le'iser. Let's go. Neiter adam kurnas, a hammer. Again, a hammer can go both ways. You can take a hammer lifatzei boyas or a goyzer. Or next, kardoim. Kardoim is an axe. Lachtoich boyas adavela. There used to be these little axelach that were made to open up these cakes of pressed figs. Even though normally a kardom is made for building. Magera, a saw. You could use a saw. Logud boyas agavina, to slice cheese with it. And you can still argue that maybe it's a certain keli made for slicing cheese. Magrefa, a shovel. Ligroi boyas agroigeres. So when you used to have the dry figs, they stick to each other. So sometimes you need to have a certain type of shovel to chop it out of the keli. And es harachas, a winnowing shovel. Es hamalges, a pitchfork. Losses olive lekaten, to feed food to a miner. You know, we have forks and knives and spoons. They didn't have that much of it, so they would use other kelim if there was a need. Or as hakush, a kush is a spindle. A karkar is a weaver's reed. Also, lischoiv boy. Somehow, fruit, sometimes you used to knock it into the fruit and eat the fruit. But you can use all of this, l'tzoyrach gufay, for something that you can do on Shabbos. Machat shalya, the hand needle, can be used not for sewing, but little boy as a koitz, to remove a splinter. And the shal sakoim, right, a certain type of sacks, a needle that's used to making a sack could be used as a key to pick a lock. And again, almost all of these items, maybe they were lechatchila made for these secondary functions. Then avada, you can use it for a permissible function. But no, but Rabbi is already alluding over here that even if it was made for a davar ha'asur, everything we mentioned could have been made, primarily it's made for something you can't sew on Shabbos. Nevertheless, that's the whole chiddush of the Mishnah, that even when you have a keli shemalachte le'iser, as long as there's no chisar and kiss, that means the owner doesn't care if you use it for a secondary function, then you are allowed to use it for a secondary function. That's called the tzorech gufa. You're using it to use it. Okay, so let's start. First, we're going to begin with the opening part of the Mishnah and go into the Girsa. The Mishnah says, Kol hakelim nitolim. Afal pishin esparko b'Shabbos, right? And see here, the Gemara took out the parentheses. Now, that implies that even if the door came off on Shabbos, even then the door is not muksa. Implying avade that if the door came off on the weekdays, then for sure it's not muksa. Says the Gemara, that's not true. Not that the halacha is not true. That's saying that there is a greater chiddush, that if the door comes off on Shabbos, that even then it's not muksa. It's not true. It's a greater chiddush that if the door came out on the weekday, that it's not muksa. And the Gemara explained that's a problem. So the inference is a problem, not in halacha, but by showing where do you have the greater novelty. Adarabam, this Shabbos, the reason why if it comes off on Shabbos, I will argue it's taka not muksa, because muchanim al gabe aviem. But since Ben Hashmash is coming in, it was still connected. And since when it was connected to the keli is not muksa, so when Shabbos came in, the door was not muksa. So I can argue, even though it came off on Shabbos, no, it retains its non-muksa status. Maybe if it came off in the week, since when Bein Hashmashos came in, ein muchanim al gaba aviem, so I would argue there's more logic to say that it is muksa. Now, I'll explain to you why it's not muksa. You know why it's not muksa? Because since this door will be reattached, that's why it's not muksa, but that's a bigger chiddush. So the inference of where the bigger chiddush is the problem, and because of that, the girsa is not correct. You see in the parentheses, the b'Shabbos. Kol, like you're right. The Mishnah meant the opposite. Kol ha'kelim atolim b'Shabbos. All kelim, it's a keli, then it's not muksa, including its doors. But afal pi, taka write the words, even if it came off b'choil, right? So when Shabbos came in, it wasn't connected al gabi avim, still nitalim b'Shabbos. Okay, so that just resolved. The bottom line is all the same, and taka, the chiddush, is put in the right place. Now, Tanarabanon. Okay, says the Braisa, Dela shel shida shel teva shel migdal, right? Doors from different types of boxes, carriages, v'chulei noitlin. Right here, the Braisa says they may be removed. They may be removed. The Mishnah didn't say how it was removed, but they cannot be returned. The shel rule shel tana goylem, but if it's coming from something that's mechuber lakarka, the example the Braisa gives, you have a chicken coop, then loy noitlin, loy machzin. That's clear because anything that's mechuber lakarka, right? Binyan and stira is a ayin gimel, one of the malachas. What about when it comes to a non-building? Oh, we also learned about these concepts of kalim, binyan bekalim, ain binyan bekalim. So that's the Gemara over here. So the Gemara says, like this: Bishleima, the safe of this brayso, shalul shultan and goyim, taket kusavar, and everyone holds to this. Kiven the machabre ba'ar, right? The chicken coop is connected to the ground, so therefore the door is connected to the ground. Since yesh binyan bakarka and yesh stira bakarka, that's a building. You're building a building. So therefore, you cannot dismantle it and you cannot put it back. Avol, but in the ratio of the Braisa, shal shida, shal migdal, fragt die Gemara, mimanav shach, what does this Braisa subscribe to? If he holds yesh binyan bekalim, which is why loy machzirin, then yesh binyan, then yesh stira, then why noitlin? Then noitlin should be problematic. If he holds ve'im ein stira bekalim, so ein binyan bekalim, there's no problem with binyan. If there's no problem of binyan, then why does he write loy machzirin? Who cares if you put it back? So Amar Abaye says that lo'olam kasavar yesh binyan v'yesh tira bekalim, and the girsa in the Braisa has to be changed. You're not allowed to take it off. The Braisa didn't say that you took it off. Noitlin doesn't mean that you took it off. It means v'shenitlu ka'aman. If it was removed, since yesh binyan, you can't put it back. And Rabbi says no. First of all, state shuvas with them. Chad the noitlin. Look at the words. The words are authentic. They're authoritative. The noitlin means you may take it off. Furthermore, if the pshat in noitlin, I can tolerate one mistake in a braisa. It wasn't that authoritative. People forgot the words. But the next opening, the word avol doesn't fit. Avol is the contrast with, if noitlin means noitlin, then avol machzirin. If noitlin means if accidentally it got taken off, then the Braisa should have said, not avol, loy machzirin. Shenitlu, if it came off, don't put it back. So the avol, you can't have that much mistakes, so you're wrong. Elo amarava, no. I'm going to say the kashavar ein binyan bekelim. The ein stira bekelim. And that answers why noitlin. You can take it off. Why does the Braisa say loy machzirin? That's something else. Not because you're violating an isur d'oraisa, it's isur d'rabbanan. Ugzeira shema yiska. When you put these doors back, so they're putting it back in a way that it's not strongly wedged in there, and then they're putting it back in a way that it's going to remain there. And what's the problem? Gavaldik. Makabapatish. And when you're not putting it so good. You take it on, you put it off. We are afraid that you might insert it back so good that it's going to stay there it's going to stay there. If you were to do that, makabapatish, so a gzeira, b'chlal, don't put it back off. That's shot in the Mishnah. So here's the question: what kornis is the Mishnah referring to? It's getting late. It's chaparai. So says the Gemara, machlekes, my friends, Rav Yehuda and Rabbi. This is such a fundamental machlekes. Omar Rav Yehuda, that the Mishnah is not speaking about a keli shemalachta le'iser. That you may not move. Let's say the gufay. Kornis shalagoizim. The hammer lechatchila was made for nuts, and therefore says the Mishnah lefatzei ba'yasagoizim. But if you would have a kornis that was primarily made shal mapachim, right? It was made for a smith. Then why does Rabbi Yehuda learn that shot in the Mishnah? Because Rabbi Yehuda holds that davar shemalachtoi le'iser afilu l'tzoyrech gufay aser. And I want you to know when he says afilu l'tzoyrech gufay, what is that afilu referring to? So look inside the Rashi. This is so important. 3 lines from the bottom of the Amid. Afilu l'tzoyrech gufay, says Rashi afilu. Right, the kol shchein l'tzoyrech mekaymai. It's tzorech gufay. Tzorech gufay should be more permissible because you're using it for something that's mutter. Tzorech mekaymai is a bigger stretch. Remember that. Tzorech mekaymai, something is muksa. I want to move the muksa. I don't even need it, but I'm saying I need the place. That's a bigger heter. So that's just another pshat of Rabbi Yehuda that if a keli shemalachta le'iser avade l'tzoyrech mekaymai, you may not move it. Rabbi Yehuda holds even l'tzoyrech gufay. Gufay means I want to use it to crack a knock open. And again, the owner doesn't care if you use a hammer of a blacksmith to something like cracking nuts. It doesn't ruin it. There's no chesar and kiss. Still, Rabbi Yehuda holds keli shemalachta le'iser even l'tzoyrech gufay is muksa. Says Rabbi disagrees with that, and he proves it from the Mishnah. I get it. You can learn the kornis. I get it. But say for the Tani, and this is the only case that Rabbi is arguing. This keli is only made le'iser. As farachas, as hamalgaze, right? The winnowing shovel and this type of a pitchfork, and there the Mishnah says you can use it to feed a cotton. Rachas umalzik mimi yachtele cotton. It's nishtemes. That is from all of the examples, that is only a keli shemalachta le'iser. And indeed, elamar Rabba, kudah shalapachim. Even if the hammer was made for a blacksmith, if you are taking it, lefatzei aboyasar goizim, that's the whole Mishnah. You are allowed to do it. Baruch Hashem, kuf chav gimel, because Rabba holds that davar shemalachta le'iser, as long as you are moving it for something that's permissible and you're going to use it, the tzorech gufay is muter gavaldik. And just to know, b'chlal, in the real bigger picture, that we are all kelim shemalachti leheter, kol ma shabara HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'yolomei lo yibara elu l'chvaydai. So we have to always figure out, when we use everything that God made, l'tzoyrech shemayim, l'shem shemayim, we're not taking a keli shemalachta le'iser. But then halachically, there is a concept of a keli shemalachta le'iser. So we're leaving off machlokes, guys, Rav Yehuda and Rabba, whether you can move it l'tzoyrech gufay or not, to be continued. Simple. It begins simple.
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Isn't there a distinction with even a keli shemalachta le'iser? Whether it's like a professional keli versus,
I said many times, Danny, that's called machmas chesar and kiss. That's what Allah says. Machmas chesar and kiss means that if the owner is makbid, that this should not be used for anything else, like a saken shel shchita.
Right.
The term is, it's not because it's made for professionals, because it's expensive. And if it's going to be used by stamay,
right, the Moyle's knife is not being used for cutting flesh or something like that.
Well, it depends which Moyle's knives. Yeah, Nachman doesn't care.
He's the disposable.
You know, Nachman travels with 3 or 4 knives. I traveled with Nachman to San Francisco. He has disposable knives.
Right.
And he takes a few because he goes on the plane. He went on the plane with 3 or 4 knives that I know of. You imagine with all the security. He puts a few because he says sometimes they chop one, so he has another one, but they're all disposables.
Right.
There's no chesed and kiss there. He told me it's very, very cheap. Go figure.
Right.
All right.
All right.
I wouldn't.
Rabbi Yishkoyach.
Good.